Heidi DuBose is a top agent in Asheville, North Carolina. She's joining the podcast today. Heidi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. Asheville is one of my favorite places in the world,
Yeah,
and
a lot,
so
a
it's
lot of people's, yes.
yeah, great market. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the Asheville area and share some details for listeners who might not be familiar.
Okay.
Heidi, great to connect with you. I'm excited to talk about the work that you do, your transition to a new affiliation recently, and
hmm
kind of what inspired that. But I always like to begin with a little bit of a background on the guests. So if you could share, you know, a little bit about where you're from originally, what you were doing before real estate, and what inspired
Sure.
your transition into a career in real estate.
Yeah. So my family's from Florida originally, but we moved here when I was pretty young, about 11 years old. And when I was really small, my maternal grandmother was a broker. And then my dad got his license and started his business when I was about 12. So that was around, I guess, 37 years ago this year. And so I could you really say I grew up in the business. I went ahead and got my bachelor's degree. I got a degree in business with a focus in marketing. And then when I had my son, I really took a step back to see what I wanted to do now that I had a child. And real estate really called me at that point. So I joined basically the family business and worked with my dad and my stepmom and their company for a couple of years. And then I joined Beverly Hanks here locally, and I was there for almost 16 years. So really, cut my teeth and built my business there. It was super, super great environment for that. Lots of good training and the things I really loved about that business, which was what really drew me to the company I'm in now, which is, a smaller firm, very intentional, lots of focus on the client experience, including and also the agent experience. They really take great care of the agents in addition to the clients, and so it's a more of a concierge boutique type experience for both sides. And really love that intentionality and that commitment to growth and quality and relationships. It distills everything that I believe is so important about this business.
Beverly Hanks went through a few transitions, didn't they? And in
Yes.
recent years, actually, fairly recently.
hmm
So, uh, found themselves hanging the banner of a couple of different brands, and so that was probably an
Yeah.
interesting transition as well. Lots of rebranding in a short amount of time.
Yes, and I once the Allen Tate rebranding happened, I was there for another about 2 years after that, and then decided to that this new company was calling me and felt like a little bit more of a fit for the direction I wanted my business to go.
Maternal grandmother was a broker, so was mine.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. My
I
maternal
remember
grandmother
her
was a
with the really
broker.
long, yeah, the really long telephone cord, back in the day, the little coiled
Sure.
cords, and she had about a 30-foot one she would run around the house on while she was talking deals and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I remember. I remember those phones and those
Yeah.
cords. Business and with a concentration
Uh-huh.
in marketing is a great, uh, I think, a great platform for a career in real estate. You probably didn't know it at the time when you were majoring in that, but so
No,
many
I
of
don't
those
I don't think
principles,
so.
no, so many of those
Apply.
principles apply, don't you think?
I agree. And actually, what I always say though is that while I was in college, I worked in the fine dining industry, restaurants, and I often say that that prepared me more than the college degree did, because it really taught me to work with people and provide a high end experience. Because I worked for the dining room at the inn on the Biltmore Estate, I was on their opening team, and then I worked at Savoy, which people in Asheville will remember back in the day on Merriman Avenue, which was also a fine dining experience. So I think that provided me a ton of good training as well.
So I'm going to digress a little bit on this topic because it brings back it rings a bell. And you mentioned how working in fine dining prepared you probably more so than college for
hmm
a successful a career in real estate. And that
Yeah.
reminds me of a story that most people around the country know the name Rick Hendrick, and of course here in
hmm
Charlotte, in the Charlotte market, it's we're all very familiar with the Hendrick organization, both the retail, automotive, and of course the race teams. But um,
Right.
Rick Hendrick was a regular at a fine dining restaurant in Charlotte called the Palm for years and years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
And
know that one.
do you know that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
A- And he ended up, I met the general manager of then the Mercedes dealership on Hendrick on Independence Boulevard here in Charlotte, one of their flagship stores, who had
Mm-hmm.
previously been the general manager of their Porsche dealership. And the GM and I were having a conversation, and this was 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And he said, he told me about how he was the general manager of the Palm. Um,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
before the automotive business, and the automotive business
Mm-hmm.
never was never on his radar, right? So
Right.
but Rick
Right.
Hendrick was a regular, a frequent customer, guest there at the Palm, and they got to know each other quite well. And Rick
Oh,
ended
yeah.
up recruiting him, and he said
Yeah.
his philosophy was, Ed, everything you do here is exactly the kind of experience that I want my customers to have at my luxury brands,
Right.
luxury stores. So yeah, I totally agree. I think that hospitality, working in any phase of the hospitality industry, but especially fine dining or 4 or 5 star hotel, that sort of thing, or even,
Right.
golf or country club, is a great
Mm-hmm.
foundation for um, those exceptional customer service skills, right? And providing
Yes.
just an exceptional level of service for your clients.
Mm-hmm. We want them to feel like it's easy and that, all of the burden is taken off of them for the hard stuff. And we were thinking of things that they hadn't even thought of yet and forecasting the process and making it, low stress and as enjoyable as it can be.
Absolutely. The client experience is something that I think more and more premium brands have focused over the last decade or longer on. That's really the differentiator, I think, between
Hmm.
an average brand and a premium brand, and is that client
Right.
experience. Share a little bit about the new firm that and I say new, but how long have you been with them?
It's about, oh gosh, I guess 18 months, getting close to 18 months now.
Okay, so
Um,
it's been a little while.
and so we are, yeah, so we are a intentionally small firm. We're going to cap out at 30 agents, and everyone that is coming in is experienced. That the goal is to have a collaborative approach where everybody's coming in with a lot of knowledge and experience under their belt, and we support each other and work together and to grow and keep raising the floor as far as our client experience and how we're serving the people that we work with, and including each other. And I don't know if you've heard of a book recently called Unreasonable Hospitality. And
I have.
yes, and it's a lot of his, the experiences they provide. We're going for that level for our clients to where they're surprised and delighted with the experience that they have and the touches that we provide and what we think ahead on and how we take care of them.
That's a book that has been, I actually have a copy. I received a copy from a very prominent home builder here in the Charlotte area. Are you familiar with Classica
Oh yeah.
Homes?
I've heard of it. Yeah, not
Yeah,
intimately familiar, but yes.
they came from, yeah, they're strictly in the Charlotte market. So I wouldn't expect
Okay.
anyone out really outside the Charlotte area to know of them. But they come from custom building roots, but their product is just amazing. And they have such a wonderful team. But I was at a luncheon with them recently, and the
Yes.
CEO, the founder, was retiring and introducing everyone to the new CEO who had been with the company for 10 years already. And they
Hmm.
gifted us a copy of that Unreasonable Hospitality and basically shared that they're
It's great. And I
going
got a chance
forward.
to.
Go ahead.
That's their goal. Yeah. Well, Will Guidara, we actually who wrote the book, we got to see him speak in Atlanta recently because so the company I'm with now is called Unique Real Estate Collective, and we are actually powered by Keller Williams. So we have um, all of their technology and training and global reach as far as referrals, and it's just a very powerful partnership. But we were at their big international conference in Atlanta a few weeks ago, and Will Guidero spoke, and he was just incredible in person as well. So that's kind of our guiding light with that idea of unreasonable hospitality and um, just continuing to raise the floor in this industry.
Well, I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't read it yet, so now I'm even more motivated to get started. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to diving in. So, and that the convention in Atlanta is at the Keller Williams Family Reunion, as it's called.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I work pretty
Yeah.
closely with a couple of Keller Williams brokers here in the Lake Norman area. But yeah, great brand. Lots of tremendous technology within that company. So
Hmm.
yeah, some great
Yes.
resources.
Yes. Very, very forward thinking and cutting edge.
Unique Real Estate Collective. Would you say this is sort of a brand that leans on the luxury side of the market?
Luxury as an experience, I would say, because we handle properties across the spectrum. We do luxury really well, but the goal is a luxury experience across all price points.
Well said, and I agree for sure. And that's a sentiment that's been echoed here on the podcast by other, really highly successful brokers that I've had the privilege of having on this podcast, and I couldn't agree more. I think that that's an important concept for real, real estate brokers in general to grasp and clients to understand
Hmm.
too, that luxury is really
Yeah,
an experience, not a price point.
exactly. Yeah.
So, what's going on in the Asheville market? Tell me a little bit about, share a little bit about the dynamics of the Asheville market for listeners who may not be super familiar. I know that the high
Hmm.
country of North Carolina, Western North Carolina, I spend a lot of time in the Banner Elk, Blowing Rock area. Looking
Okay. Yeah.
forward to spending more time in the Asheville area this year. My wife and I, one
Hmm.
of our favorite places to visit, and it's I. It seems like the high country area, Western North Carolina, is continuing to just um, set the bar and raise the bar. To share a little bit
Yeah. And
about that.
yeah, so we really we are more like the Blue Ridge Mountains here, the high country we tend to think of as more cachers and highlands and places like that. But we're more at this like the Blue Ridge Mountain elevations and we our market so I've been in the business here 19 years and it's like I said my family's been in for 37 and this market just continually outperforms most major markets in the US. I think um, even during the last recession, we did better than the country as a whole. And I think we just have such an appeal because of the temperate climate, the four seasons, all the outdoor activities, and then Asheville is just continuing to raise the bar on our food and foodie experience and um, some music and art and all of these things. And so and it's very friendly. I noticed that, and I like to travel a good bit, and this is still one of the friendliest places. When I go somewhere else, I'm used to smiling at people on the street, and you realize when you leave, that doesn't happen in a lot of places. It's kind of unique. So, um, yeah, and I think we saw a huge boom during COVID. So many people coming here for second homes and work from home, and we saw a huge short-term rental boom, which I was fairly involved in because my family owns short-term rentals. I've had them. I mean, it's a market I'm really intimately familiar with, and so we saw a huge boom in that. That is sort of leveling out now where the ones, just like with anything, the ones that were not as high performing or thoughtfully done are falling away into long-term rentals and things like that, and the good ones are remaining. Um, so we have we have a second home sector, we have a short-term rental sector, and then we have your typical like families and retirement and work from home. And I would say our work from home is a higher percentage probably than a lot of places see because it is such a desirable place to live when someone has that opportunity to work from home, especially if both members of a couple do, then why don't we move to Asheville, And so we get a lot of that in our market.
That's That makes total sense. My wife and I both work from home generally, primarily. I do have
Yeah.
to do some I do some in-person work occasionally that requires a little bit of travel, but generally speaking, work from home. And every time we visit Asheville, we usually stay downtown and we'll kind of explore
Yeah.
from there. Every time we visit, we say,
Hmm.
"Gosh, we should move here." You know, what's stopping us?
You and a lot of other
So,
people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
such a beautiful place. Short-term rental market is something that really interests me a lot. Again, I mentioned that,
Hmm.
I've done quite a bit of work in the last year or so and continue to do more work in the Banner Elk, Blowing Rock area of North Carolina. And obviously, short-term rentals are a huge market up there. The performance
Sure.
of
Yeah.
the property is a big selling point, right?
Hmm.
That's something that most
Hmm.
buyers are going to be interested in, and then of
Right.
course, second, third homes, which are often in the short-term rental program to help offset the cost of
Of
ownership, right?
course. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. We ton of that here as well. From clients that I've worked with that have been involved in the short-term market up there in the high country, and then here, ones that are closer to Asheville tend to perform better than those because we have more of a year-round market here. Um, where I think up there in the Highlands areas, it can be a little bit more up and down. Where a good rental here can be, you know, 52 weeks a year.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of Highlands and cashiers and outperforming the market and raising the bar, for
Hmm.
those who, those areas of North Carolina might ring a bell for a lot of listeners because of the record-setting estate listings that have been
Yes.
transacted there over recent
Hmm.
years and actually for quite
Very
a long
true.
time,
Hmm.
right?
There are some exceptional properties up there, no doubt.
Highlands and Cashiers is another place that I intend to spend a little bit more time in visiting this year. I haven't been that far west in North Carolina yet. I haven't been past,
Hmm.
Pisgah, Brevard,
Oh
just
yeah.
outside of Asheville there. So I'm looking forward to exploring Highlands. What do you what
Well, the old the
you
old
mentioned
Edwards Inn is the thing.
the old Edwards Inn.
Oh, yeah, I was saying when you go, that's an exceptional place to stay.
I will check it out for sure. Have you had any transactions in that area?
No, I stick to areas where I'm intimately familiar with the market. I'm solid in about 5 counties around here just because I have lived here for so long. But you
Yeah.
get much beyond that, much beyond like an hour radius for me. I don't feel like I have that innate familiarity with the nuances of the market to be able to help a client sufficiently. Or to the level that I want to. So I would refer that out.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And also, that reminds me, Highlands Cashiers is easily an hour, from it's a
Oh,
long
it's more
drive
like
from
two
Charlotte.
from here.
Is it
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
more like two
yeah.
from here. Yes.
It's
Yeah.
tucked down there in southwest North Carolina, and
Hmm.
there's no quick way to get there. So
No, it's a commitment. Yeah.
so what do you have planned for how's 2026 starting out, and what do you see on the horizon for this year in the Asheville market?
Yeah. So it's actually started out great. A really strong first quarter. I think a lot of busy agents in this area would echo that sentiment. I think we have a lot of people ready to get off of the fence and get on with their lives. We have definitely some pent up demand, I feel, from the last couple of years. And so I'm getting a lot of listings coming in for the spring season. So I feel like this is going to be a busy year. And we've had a little bit of a hitch in the momentum with interest rates jumping back up again in the last couple of weeks, but still hopeful that will smooth out and we will continue with a busy year because, like I said, I think there's a good bit of pent up demand.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Everything that I hear, here in the Charlotte area, Lake Norman, the Eastern High Country, and out in Western North Carolina as well. From what I can tell, the 2026 has started out very, very strong with very, very positive
Yeah.
momentum. So that's a great sign for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. And I definitely have been, invested in my business in some new ways in the last few months, and so I'm excited about that as well. Building my platform and my foundation moving forward into this year.
Speaking of platforms and foundations, I always love to chat a little bit about marketing. And as you are aware, I'm a
Yeah.
kind of a marketing geek. So
Right.
it's the part of the real estate industry that I love the most, that I'm most passionate about.
Hmm.
And I'm just curious what, you've been in the business for, you're very experienced. You've been in the business for a while, and you've no doubt executed on different marketing strategies over the course of your
Yeah.
career. Broadly speaking, we don't have to be like super specific or get into the weeds on,
Hmm.
tactics and that sort of thing. But what if what do you prioritize mainly when it comes to marketing
Are you talking about for myself or my listings?
for yourself? Yes,
Okay. So I lean heavily on relationships. So I work really hard at maintaining contact with my past clients and current clients, and really engaging them more relationally, because and that's comes from a genuine place too, because I really truly like most of my clients and enjoy spending time with them. And so that's, and I like more one-on-one kind of contact, as in, messages here and there, coffee, lunch, things like that. And then starting to lean into events a little bit, especially with the company, some joint events. Like we do a fall festival where we go to a corn maze and invite clients, and that's just a fun afternoon. And then I'm also investing in social media more. I've got a social media manager now, and working on coming up with content that actually is helpful to buyers and sellers, things that they can reference or tune into when they have questions. And provide something more than entertainment on the in my social media channel. Um, and also starting to tap into AI as well, and like how to interact with that, and how to use that as a leverage point, um, moving forward in the marketing world.
absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned quite a few things there that I completely agree with, and I think are so important, especially when it comes to maintaining, nurturing relationships with past clients. I think that that's
There's no substitute for that. Yeah.
absolutely. And the events, the reconnecting for coffee, for lunch, individually, but also
Hmm.
these events I think, a great way to keep engaged with your past clients. And also they're, when it comes to things like, yes, Google reviews, things like that. It's a great way to
Oh yeah,
retouch and
we are
reconnect
doing
and
that
say,
as
hey,
well.
by the
Yes.
way, can you,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We've just started that in the last six months or so as well. The Google
Yeah.
reviews. You'd think I would have done that years ago, but here, here we are.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of introducing a little bit more educational content into a broker's
Hmm.
overall social media strategy. I think that
Hmm.
having a balanced mix of aspirational slash entertaining type content, but also informative, educational. That's also a great way for you to demonstrate your expertise as well. And I think that
Right.
that's also something that I would, I personally, I lean into that, and I think that a lot of brokers would benefit from leaning a little bit more into that as well. So I love that.
Yeah.
The events are definitely, uh, I do that quite a lot, and I don't, it's hard to measure the ROI from events, but I will say, other than the fact that it's just so rewarding to get together and
Yeah.
reconnect with,
It's fun.
with the clients and colleagues. So,
Right. Right.
all right. Well, one other thing I want to ask you, before I let you go, and
Yep.
this can be a difficult question to answer because there are probably dozens of answers to this question, dozens of things
Right.
that you'd like to add. But generally speaking, for anyone who's new, relatively early in
Hmm.
their real estate career, just got their license within the last year or two, um, and just beginning that journey, or anyone who may be considering, making that transition, might be in class now, might be looking at how they're going to accomplish that. What kind of
Right.
stands out for you as you look back into your early days of your career? What would be kind of a piece of advice you might offer newer agents?
Okay, I've got three things for this.
Great.
One is, I think, and this is, I think, super important. You need to love it. You need to really love it because it's hard. And there are stretches to get through where you really have to, there has to be some passion to it for you to stick with it and do it to a high level, I think. And then mindset, there is absolutely no substitute for mindset because, again, building the business takes time and it's difficult and it requires belief in something that seems unbelievable at points, you know? And so getting a growth mindset and a success mindset and really working with yourself internally is huge. And then get a mentor, get a coach, get somebody who is really experienced and who can, you know, you can absorb from. Because again, I think those three things, there's really no substitute for any of those.
I love those. I love those that package of advice you just provided there because I think that that really encapsulates uh, what it takes to not only have a successful real estate career, but have, in a lot of ways, a successful life, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, real estate is hard, no matter what you may think it is before you get into the industry.
Yeah.
It's not the fun and games that I think that a lot of that, and certainly brokers, myself included, are guilty of sharing the wins, the highs, right, of the journey
Yeah.
of the career, but inside we know amongst ourselves the challenges, absolutely, of
Hmm.
it'll
Hmm.
test you. So yeah, you got to love it for sure. Mindset, growth, growth and mindset. What are some ways that you've developed your mindset in this business over the years? Are you an avid reader? Do you do you participate in like coaching or seminars, that sort of thing?
All of the above. Early, very, very early on, I did a lot of success mindset coaching in a couple of programs and reading. And you know, this goes into a little bit of woo woo territory, but a lot of us have ideas and beliefs that we may have, you know, come up from childhood with that kind of block success and that you really have to work through and get out of the way first. And then and then just developing that intense belief in yourself. Like, you know, you're setting the goals and then you're making the plan as to how to achieve that goal, and believing that you can do it, believing in yourself. And then consistency, you cannot, there's no substitute for consistency either.
Absolutely. I think consistency is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to
Hmm.
life or career.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
that is definitely and your third suggestion, mentorship, find a mentor. I think that
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
so valuable, and again, a suggestion that's repeated often here on the podcast by those who know, those successful brokers like yourself who have are well into their career and have seen all the challenges and understand what it takes
Hmm.
to build a successful a foundation for a successful career. I couldn't agree more. I think mentorship is so important. Find a great mentor, connect with
Yep.
someone who's doing the kind of work that you would like to be doing in 10 years or 15
Exactly.
years or
Yeah.
20 years, right?
Yeah. And if you can't, I mean, coaching is great. I do business coaching now, but if you can't afford that early on, get on a team with a high producing agent, you know, get, you know, deeply involved with someone who can really teach you that you can absorb from. It's not something to
Absolutely.
strike out and do on your own.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree
Mhm.
100%. Heidi, this has been so great to connect with you. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join the
Absolutely.
podcast. Truly appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you so much.
For listeners who want to learn more about you, the Asheville market, and connect with
Mhm.
you and your team, what's the best way?
Text or email, either one, for me. I'm always have my phone in my hand pretty much, so text is the fastest, and then email is great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah, very accessible by phone and email. Thank you for that. That's very generous for you to offer that. I'll have
Yeah.
that information in the description for the episode as well. Of course, I'll have a link to Unique Real Estate Collective
Sure.
also, and a link to your social media. Heidi DuBose, an epic agent indeed in the Asheville, North Carolina market with Unique Real Estate Collective, powered by Keller Williams. Heidi, thanks again so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.